don't forget to turn your little doobadickie on, because we are live streamed, aren't we? Yeah.
Kia ora koutou. For anyone I haven't met, I'm Jen O'Connell, and I'm Resource Recovery and Sustainability Lead at New Plymouth District Council. Presenting, I suppose, on behalf of the Regional Waste Minimisation Officer, who is on parental leave at the moment.
Yep.
So in the data report, obviously a lot of numbers, lots of information there for you, but a couple of things to highlight is that overall as a region, we've got a 10% reduction in our waste to landfill showing in this financial year, so it's a great result, primarily driven in South Taranaki and New Plymouth District Councils. And yeah, so there's an overall decrease in waste despite an increase in population across the region. And we have also got a reduction in recycling tonnes, but that's because it comes with the reduction in landfill. It's not necessarily a bad sign, it's just an indication that there is less total waste coming into our system across the region.
Which in itself is not a good thing, because that means less economic activity.
Yeah, but it depends how you look at everything, I suppose. And probably that's what we would assume would be a big driver of that reduction in waste, less economic activity and consumption across. Our diversion rate is about the same, so that suggests it's not, the reduction is not necessarily because we're diverting more of our waste, it is probably just that overall people buying less, using less. I guess the other one I was going to highlight is just that our waste to household across the region has gone down, but in New Plymouth and Stratford has gone up slightly. That one is potentially, I suppose we think it's likely due to increasing rates at the transfer station, so people are trying to put more through their curbside. South Taranaki has shifted the trend on that one with quite a big reduction, probably due to the new bins introduced with our new waste services and changes to that curbside collection leading to lower waste coming through. So it's like a good indication of how shifts in our infrastructure can really change people's behaviour in those spaces.
So you were saying then the size of bin in the South Taranaki area has made a difference in how people react?
Yeah, it looks like it to me anyway from the numbers. Yeah, change in frequency.
Yeah, declined.
Yeah, we went before that.
Yeah.
And it's slightly larger.
Yeah.
Yeah, but overall a reduction in how much sort of capacity people have to take out waste through the curbside collection means that they do shift that. And yeah, because there's an overall reduction in waste in the area as well, so it's not all going to transfer stations.
Yeah. So one thing I've got here is the use of private services, you know, that data's not captured. Is there any way we can capture that, or, you know, because perception would have you believe that the people wouldn't be using the private services as much as they are because of economic cost. Is that true? Or?
It is an interesting one. We don't necessarily have access to complete data about private services. So in New Plymouth District, we do have a system where people, solid waste licensing, people have to register and give us data, but we haven't got sort of full data on that. I would expect that the private services are probably significant in there, and yeah, some of that shift could be to private services as well, but no, that's not something we have extra data on at this stage. Yeah, it's a little bit of a challenging one to get, but something we're working on, and yeah, definitely something I'm keen to push forward because yeah, if we're not getting the whole picture, we're not getting
Because yes, you might be getting more recycling or whatever, but people are just going to private services to...
Yeah, so any private services that come through our transfer station, which is some of them that will be captured, but private services like waste management that can ship directly the waste to body can probably not captured in that picture there.
Chair, can I just add just to your comments regarding the infrastructure? one of the bits of feedback I can give you from the Stratford area is that the changes that the contractor have made at the transfer station have been rejected by the community substantially. Specifically, the arrangement used to be there was 3 or 4 skip bins there for coloured glass, and you could literally take your bin of bottles and just tip it in.
Ease of use.
Yep. Whereas now there's a row of little holes, and you've got to poke them all through one by one. Takes them a lot longer, and they don't like it. And in the case of people from the rural community, frequently they collectively gather up 3 or 4 neighbours, and they take turns at bringing in their stuff every so often, and they find themselves there for half an hour doing that, and they don't like it. And then the other part of it is the green waste, where up until recently you could back your trailer or ute in and pull the stuff off the back onto the ground, and then they'd use a tractor or something to put it into a bin. Now they've got a bin that's way higher than your trailer or ute, and you've actually got to pick up everything off your trailer, piece by piece, and put it there. It takes you forever, and some people just aren't capable of doing that. And it's quite a significant height difference. So surely a better system would be just to slide it off the trailer and into a bin. So you just need something at different heights. But those 2 little practical things have had quite an impact. And then when people get anti, they just don't use it at all. So things like cardboard and that don't go through there either. So.
Yeah, that's good feedback that we can take back to the contractor for this.
The last graph, move contamination.
Yep.
I see that sort of flat line on that one. What's any trending? It's trending down.
Yes, there's a slight change over the year, and you did, like, if you look at the numbers in the table, it does sort of seem like it's an uptick towards the end of the year there, or the financial year. We're not hearing about sort of new contaminants or anything. It's still the same stuff, soft plastics, all of that sort of. That would be one of the big ones. We do still get some really interesting contamination coming through. But the bulk of it is kind of that ordinary soft plastic. Those sorts of things that people are just a bit unsure about, maybe.
It'd be by weight, wouldn't it? Because they only weigh them.
I think it's by weight.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. No, that's all.
Yeah.
By weight. So because it's quite a recent trend, haven't had a really chance to dig into it. We are building at New Plymouth, doing some planning around how we audit bins and work between our people who are auditing on the street and the MRF to understand how that contamination comes in, where it might come from. So that will be a piece that we're looking at. The other thing, so there has been, and this one will come up in the operations report, we're not totally sure if it's connected, but timing-wise, it's a similar time to when the contractors started to be a bit stricter on how they would take what level of overfull of a bin would be taken. And so it's potential that some changes in that might have led to people trying to sort of cram things into the recycling bin if they weren't able to get them into the bins. But that's not something we've really had a chance to explore and determine if that's the real condition or just a coincidence of timing.
Going back in time, what was the determining factor for the size of the bin per property? You know, was it gauged on how much waste would be generated within a household with 4 inhabitants or whatever, or how did they get to that point? Do you know?
That is a question I would have to take away, or unless anyone else has insight, because it is.
For South Taranaki, we're now looking at changing the size of the bins. We do every 6 years as part of our WMP audits of the bins and things like that, and through that 60% of our red litter rubbish bin was actually recyclable. So if you took out that 60% of recyclable, the size of the bin could go down.
Yep.
Hence why it was one of the factors we changed. We went to the smaller red bin and the bigger yellow bin, because in our audits we had the proof and the figures to state that most of your red bin can go in the yellow bin or your glass crate or some other form of recycling, therefore your red bin could go down. And that was one of the factors that determined our council to go towards smaller sizes for South Taranaki. I can't speak to New Zealand.
Yeah. But the reason for that volume in the first place, you didn't audit that sort of through and say an ordinary household will generate this amount of...
There is evidence out there, but not on a district level for us.
Right.
We've never gone into that far.
My assumption would be that it would be based on the audits that were conducted.
Yeah.
Because you would get average through that, so it would be based on the district level, and then probably with national averages. So it's not, it wouldn't be put on per household as a household of 4, because you don't know what the sizes of the households are.
No.
And there's too much variances. Like all households contain 4, some of them are pensioner flats, those kind of things, so you can't really go on that system. You have to go on average of what is actually happening.
Okay, yeah, so it hasn't been sort of audited on a personal basis, it's just a household basis, yeah. Yeah, Brian?
Just to follow on, you have got the opportunity to buy a second bin, South Taranaki.
Oh, yeah.
Under special circumstances, and you've got to pass a little bit of a test.
Yeah.
You can't be just a bad guy, there's got to be a specific reason why you would require an extra bin and you purchase it. And I think that's gone down well, I don't know how many picked it up.
Yeah, there is quite a few. You've got those that have got large households or those with incontinence, medical conditions, things like that, for adult children or even adults in the family. There's a form that they fill out that gets assessed for the reasoning why. I don't think Louisa said any's been declined. But yeah, it's an extra cost that goes onto their rates, so they're paid for that extra required.
Yeah.
Just to follow on, I'd contamination circled as well a couple of times, sorry. We've kind of been battling around this 20 to 25% for the last...
Ever?
Yeah, a long time. The last 2 elections anyhow, last 6 years.
Yeah.
And we seem to be getting nowhere. Are we... Can you write that in the minutes, please, actually, so my fellow colleagues can see that?
That he's doing his job.
They can rewatch the live stream.
I'm happy with a better 20%. There's other councils that are in single digits around New Zealand. And I remember us going out and talking to a few councils on what they did and how they did. But I think we need to be a little bit, I think we need to work on that further. I think we need to know what the major contaminant is, if it's soft plastic. I think we need to target it. And I think we need to advertise that like, hey, okay. But it could be someone that just doesn't realise or hasn't got the notion that they've been putting it in there for the last 6 years. No one's really told me off, so I'm going to keep doing it. If we don't do anything about it, we're going to be here, well, someone will be here in 10 years' time and it's still going to be 20-25%. So we're not going to get anywhere.
A couple of things in that space. One is that in our new contract we have a lot more bin auditors going through, so a lot more people are getting tags on their bins indicating, saying this is a yellow because you've got the wrong stuff, and then we usually take it, or a red if it's hazardous goods that we can't take. So there's that communication has definitely increased through the new operations contract. And then I suppose this will come up in the activity report, but the South Taranaki have done you've just done one, is that correct? First advertising of contamination and recycling rates of different areas. So looking at putting that out publicly about some of the information about what's contaminating, how our recycling's going, and trying to get that word out.
You were identifying on an area basis. Okay, you were pointing the finger.
Because what I've been told is, if I can't get it in the red, then I'll just throw it in the yellow. And no one's told me off. Yeah. And basically, I get away with it. Yeah, it's all vice versa. Like, I've got away with it today, so I'm all good, And until they get the tap on the shoulder, or the cameras become really good, where they can self-identify anything that's And these people just can't carry on doing it.
Mm.
They're not doing it until they actually get tapped on the shoulder, then they can carry on. Well done. You know?
Chair, I think just one thing to spot on for Rachel there, these two, how do you define contaminants? I understand the bottle tops and
Yes.
identified as that, so, lots of people take their, plastic full bottle and they put it in the bin with the top on, that's a contaminant. Bottle's not this. So, you know, the initiative that South's been involved with and traffic with the, milk bottle tops and promo, I mean, there was like 500,000 bottle tops taken out of circulation and that particular thing doesn't stop them going into the bin, into the red bin, which is where they're supposed to be. But, that's for 500,000 contaminants, so it's an education component there as well.
Yeah, sure.
And for whatever reason that I don't think people truly realise, they just see this piece of plastic, it comes as one unit, so dispose of it that way.
And in actual fact, the milk bottle top's got a recycling symbol on the top of it to say it's recyclable. So put it in the recycling bin.
The stewardship thing, they be changing what they make.
Well, technically it is recyclable, but the facilities that we have don't cope with those things.
Oh, they fall through the.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sort of,
Yes, it's not that the plastic is.
And that was, I've written that further on in my notes is, couldn't we have something, you know, like the schools have done, but have a bag or a container which we can issue to householders that they accumulate those tops and they're collected 3 monthly or something like that. Because I do that for myself. I've got a plastic container and all my plastic lids go in there. And Inglewood School took the last lot, but you know, I think the Junction takes them. I'm not sure whether, you know, some of the other transfer stations have got facilities to take those bottle tops.
So the
Because they're actually quite useful plastics, those.
Yeah, so the Junction take them and Egmont Recyclers take
Right.
them. Those are the only two I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I think building it into curbside would probably be quite challenging piece of work. But yeah,
But we do it for
If
green waste. We've got a special bin for the green waste. And it doesn't have to be collected, you know, every week. It's, like I say, it's just once every 3 months or 6 months, something like that.
yeah, and the other option might be to look at sort of just increasing the number of collection points around. So even if it wasn't curbside,
Yes.
we could look at other avenues,
Yeah.
libraries
The
or
elephant in the room.
True.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
As far as the rubbish and paper bags.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Put it in the bin, it's gone.
There's your
Yeah.
80%.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
And
How do we change that?
Get around with that is fine. We don't want.
I was thinking whether the manufacturers need to make the top stay with the bottom. Because Coke did this way back in the 70s. Remember, the old enough.
Yeah, the tags.
The first aluminium cans used to clip the top and you
Pull it
could
out.
actually pull the top off.
Yeah.
And they were finding that little wee tab from the top was ending up everywhere in the gutters and the streets and the ocean, everywhere. So they made the new cans that you do today, the tab stays with the can. So that was a development because the pull-off rings were ending up everywhere. You just pull them off on the street and just drop it. So they changed the manufacturing process, just globally.
Yeah.
And everyone followed.
Yeah.
I think in some countries that is becoming one avenue for bottles. It hasn't really come in here. Probably not something we can push regionally, but yeah, overseas that is happening. So it could come our way.
Yep.
Oh, they stay together.
Stay together.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
And that's okay for the recycling part of it?
I think it
I
would
think
be
so.
dependent on what type of plastic it is.
Yep.
If it is the same type of plastic, yes, it
Yep.
would be.
Yep.
But if not, it would still be seen as a contaminant.
Okay. Okay. I suppose the bottom line is our education program has got to keep going and is it working? And if it's not working, what can we do to improve it? Yeah. I don't know. You haven't got any ideas in that regard? Or how effective is the education program that we've got?
I pretty hard one to measure. I think lots of elements of it are. We heard lots of good feedback about the schools challenge, Taranaki milk tops. And I think that we heard wider community feedback as well, that people heard from a school about it and had learned about it. So we'd love to continue sort of challenges like that, trying to get people. I think one of the challenges is there's lots of different ways we can educate people, and some of them aren't likely to be, some of the stuff that looks good in some ways is unlikely to reach those people who maybe don't have the level of care. And so finding out how to access and engage those people is probably one of the challenges that we face and need to figure out, because we can put all sorts of things on social media or advertising in all sorts of places, but if people don't care, it's not going to get the message through to those people. So the people who care will notice and might change their behaviour slightly, but that won't probably be the thing that shifts the dial. So I think it's making sure that our education program is quite sort of lots of different ways that we're targeting and meeting people and getting the message through in ways that are fun, like challenges and stuff that will actually shift people's behaviour rather than just a sort of telling off approach, I suppose. And we probably need to maintain some of that telling off approach through the audits and things like that, but I think we also need to make sure we're building up some of that, bringing people along. So, yeah, just making sure we have that balance and making sure that we look at, after a campaign or whatever we do, we look at the results and see what we can figure out. So, with the Milk Tops Challenge, we looked at contamination data, at least in New Plymouth, we looked at contamination data in the areas and did see a decrease in lids coming through during the time of the challenge. So you can sort of see that in the data, and I think a place to build on that.
For you, Chair, just one thing that I think could be done is a little bit missing in the education component. That is, we tell people, use milk tops as an example, we tell people recycle these, and when we stop, and people sort of buy into that. Some people think that once they're in the recycle bin that nothing more happens to them other than they actually go to a landfill anyway. There's skeptics that think that, and they sort of don't get the complete story because they just think recycling stops at the bin. And I think the milk bottle tops is a good example. If you took the next step and said, on this particular product, a little bag, those tops are shredded into little pellets. They go a bag about so big, and it makes one of these large rubbish bags.
Yep.
So here's your milk bottle top, the little pellets into that. It completes the story so that people can understand that that recycling has actually turned into something else, and they can actually see what it is.
So in the Milk Tops Challenge, for example, that was part of the messaging, is what happened to the tops after
I think
we
that's good,
them and took them through. So I agree that telling that full story and making sure people know things are recycled, they have value, and they go off to make new things and get back in. They're not just being thrown away.
Because over time, Neil's right, is that recyclables have gone to landfill because there was no other option for them. What's the occurrence of that now? Are we in a far better space that the recyclables that, now that we've standardised the numbers, etc., the recyclables are recycled, they're not being put into landfill?
Yep, they are being recycled.
Yeah. It's like I say, before we had a standardisation process, that was, dog's breakfast in so many ways, really.
Yeah, and there have been lots of those challenges in the messaging over time, and so it's about sort of building up that trust and what happens to the recycling.
And we were able to export our waste rather than actually process it on site. So yeah. Okay. Any other comments? I suppose it's just an ongoing challenge about education and getting it right, isn't it? Recommendations on page 8. Receive that and note the data. I'll move. Somebody second? Murray. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Regional Operations Report.
Me again.
Same again? Yep.
Yep. Let me just pull it up. So again, a lot of information in there talking about the new contract. We're sort of coming up to the end of the first year of our new contract with waste management. Seeing a lot of positive change there. So we see at New Plymouth District Council at least see a lot more compliments and fewer complaints coming through. So that's a really positive trend there. I have got a bit there about the overfilled bins, which we've talked about briefly earlier. Looking at that more as we have a more stringent acceptance criteria for that. The contractor has sort of driven that through concerns about health and safety and chain escape of litter, but we at the council have to balance that with, some other considerations about what happens if we get strict. So we've come up with sort of agreements with them, and we've been communicating directly with through the communities, through service requests and some local advertising and stuff, just indicating, what will be taken. And we at New Plymouth have seen there was sort of a little spike in service requests and complaints coming through, and that seems to have settled off a lot for us now. So I think that's quite positive. Yeah. There's a few things there. A couple of other things to highlight. So the junction in New Plymouth, there was 277 tonnes of materials diverted this year, which is a 35% increase from the previous year. So that's a great result there. That the junction moving into a newer, larger location in November 2025, we would expect and hope to see that continue to rise and build that sort of zero waste up there. Got some notes there about food scrap collection at South Taranaki. So already diverted 270 tonnes approximately of waste from landfill, which is a great result from that new service. And just a note there, similar in New Plymouth, the presentation rates for that are still quite low. So looking at building up a sort of, not necessarily regional because Stratford doesn't have the food scraps collection, but across the two districts, looking at sort of education and learning from some of the other councils around the country who have managed to boost that. So that will be one of the pieces of work.
Because I see in that you were saying STDC have a lower threshold, or they collect less from their population than elsewhere. Would that be because it's probably more of a rural, people are composting it?
Potentially. Could be lots of different influences.
Yeah, there's a bit of a combination there. Yes, rural has a big impact.
Well, the township is more rural, so it's got a more
Correct.
gardening type.
There's a lot more people with their small urban gardens with composting sites and facilities within their space.
Yeah.
And then we also have the green waste bin, which we found that quite a few people are actually putting it in there.
Oh, not the food scraps.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So why change a habit if I'm doing it all the
Yeah.
time? So it's a little bit of a combination of issues.
Yeah.
But we are, as Jane said, we are looking at strategies on how we could improve.
Right. Yeah.
Just the treated timber, how are we going to get around that? I mean, I had a project at home. I had to build a floor for a shed, went online, and I just needed 40 metres of floor too. And I didn't care what condition, second hand, I wanted the whole fence palings, and there was hardly any junction.
Okay.
I would have thought that's just standard fencing material, and people with jobs like that around the garden, they don't want brand new. Good price, but there's hardly any in there. I had to do 2 visits to find some. So if we've got all this treated timber, I know some of these delaying, but I mean, there's a lot of people that get rid of fences, and I'm pretty sure all that just goes to landfill. How can we get around that? Because there's a lot of people that just want a fence, not for looks, they just want it, but you don't supply it at the junction. And I think it could be a heck of a lot more treated timber that could be supplied at the junction. Once people know it's there, they'll go there for their timber supplies. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's just bits and pieces, and there's not a rack of all sorts. We're going on about the biggest cost is the shred of timber. You can't actually get it if you want to use it.
The denailing is probably the biggest aspect of it. You and I would probably do that, but some people don't have the facilities to do that.
We've got, you know, I mean, we need to look at that. Maybe the man shed can, you know, in conjunction with the man shed can denail the small
PD people.
Well, yeah, if you're allowed to do that these days, but
Yeah.
I think that's because price of timber for a garden project that doesn't even look good. It's huge. It's the price of gold these days. And we've got a facility there. We've got a waste product, and I know it's delaying, but there must be some sort of way we can go through that. And kills two birds with one stone. So have you looked into that?
We have looked into it in various ways. I mean, I think with the sorting depot, tends to be a lot of the links that come through are not in that sort of usable scale. So that's, I suppose, where the challenge has been, is that we're getting a lot of treated timber and not a lot of it is in that reusable space. But yeah, there's potential improvements we could look at there about doing better at capturing the reusable links.
I know a lot of people that just have big bonfire, treated timber on there, school fencing. I know 2 or 3 just could have actually been sold as a second product. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I've got arguments at my place if you go past, that was all treated timber from the whole building site. So, you know, yeah, it has got a use. When they say it hasn't got a use or it's hard, I don't think it is. We need to look at that.
Can I just remind you guys to turn your little microphone onto a green glow instead of a red glow?
Yeah.
For the people online. Thank you.
Just my 2 cents worth. I think there's a huge gap there that we're actually not. The attitude has not changed that we could actually marry that together. Yeah.
But going forward, for the pieces that aren't reusable, the treated timber, it's either landfill or incineration, isn't it, in an appropriate facility. So have we got enough facilities to be able to incinerate that for heat recovery or whatever it is to feed this into?
So at the moment, most of our treated timber would be fed to the Golden Bay cement plant in Taranaki.
Right.
And that's true of most of the North Island at least. That is pretty much the only option. Incineration of treated timber is challenging because you have to have a very high temperature and you have to have a lot of feedstock. So having more plants around would sort of reduce our transportation and have some benefits in that space, but it's unlikely that we would be able to capture enough to keep feeding them.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So it's still a challenge.
It's still a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, my point is that you go to the junction and there's no product there to grab.
Yeah.
And trying to drive more through the junction is one piece of the puzzle that we could work on.
Because the sorting depot deals with people who are registered with the sorting depot, whereas a lot of what you're talking about may come from home disposals, and so that probably goes through the waste, the jumbo bins or whatever you call them, the waste management bins.
So a lot of those.
A lot, I suppose they go to the sorting.
A lot of those skips, if you're using a skip company, something like that, a lot of those do go through the sorting depot as well. So it's not.
They need to. They need to. That's the biggest gap, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Now I see you've got there about lithium batteries, etc. Have you got some exciting news coming on that or something?
Yes, hoping to have some exciting news. We haven't got exciting news quite yet. But yeah, it's something we're working on. For sure. Just looking at particularly handling procedures around dangerous and damaged batteries. So that one is getting those out of the mix and really around that health and safety of battery-related fires, resilience and risk management at our recycling facilities. That one is, sort of the first cab of the rank in that space, but we do have recycling options for lots of batteries through the junction and other avenues already. So have a little bit of a push soon on advertising what we can do in that area.
and I suppose that's the point, isn't it? It's that everything has to go through the junction to get to this point, whereas, yeah, if, you know, there was more options to, at more of the transfer stations or something like that,
Yep. That
would be great.
Something we've got considered, probably not in the immediate future, but definitely something on the
Yeah.
list.
And how many fires have we had due to battery? Because even a cell phone battery could start a fire, an old cell phone, you know, broken. So have we had any, and how we, because a normal fire can't put it out, you know, fire retardant. So how do we go around it? And
Yep.
B, have we had a history of?
I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, sorry, but I could find out. We haven't had any major or serious ones, which is, but yeah, always in our consideration is avoiding them in trucks and in the facilities particularly.
And have we got the
Are the
right
new-
chemical product to put that out, or do we just?
Oh, yeah.
We have, yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have a number, I'm afraid.
For South Taranaki, we do take batteries at our Hawara transfer station, and we are actually introducing a new system that will be launched in October, where we're actually going to be taking batteries at 4 of our public facilities, so our libraries.
Oh, right, great.
Okay.
Opanaki, Altham,
Partia,
and then at the Hawara Admin Building.
Yep.
For that kind of disposal, and it's going to be a safe, secure, health and safety oriented system that we're going to be putting in place.
Right.
But then again, the bigger ones can still go to the Hawara transfer station.
Yeah. And then what happens to them? They go to landfill or?
No, they are suitably recycled and
Right. That's-
managed.
You've said the words I wanted.
Suitably.
That's
As much
good.
as possible, we're trying to avoid the
Yep.
landfill bits of it.
Well, it was, yeah, because one of the objectives is to actually give it a safe disposal
Correct.
without going through the rubbish system, but yeah, so.
It's just, again, it's an education campaign to make people aware that there is an alternative for it and the risks that's associated with doing it the way that we're doing it now.
Yep. Yeah, so.
Just to follow on from the fires, overseas, if they get a fire in their rubbish truck, they absolutely just up the hoist and tip it in the middle of the street and let it burn. You just can't put the fires out with the batteries, especially when it's in a rubbish truck.
Yeah,
So if you're downtown anywhere, New Zealand wouldn't be too bad, you could hightail it out of town somewhere. But in the major middle of London, they'll just stop the traffic and tip it in the middle of the street and wait for the fire brigade to turn up.
Yeah.
And save the truck.
Yes,
But
yeah.
destroys the road a little bit. I've got a couple of things I'd like to bring up. Electric trucks, how are the old electric trucks did about 5 hours and they were died until the next day. Are the new ones any better, and what sort of hours are we getting out of them?
That's not something I have off the top of my head.
Okay.
Which I can find out for you.
yep.
Yeah, because the other trucks were a bit of a
Experiment?
Experiment. Let's throw that in the room on the table.
Expensive
Yep.
experiment.
So I see you got two there now. I didn't realise you had two. I thought you just had another one. Small businesses opt in, curbside.
Yep.
Yeah, is that, does South Taranaki do that? Do we, you've had a positive response from that, looks of things?
Yeah, we get really good feedback from the ones we have signed up. I would say probably the 55 was not the number we would necessarily be hoping to be at by this stage, but we are working on, I guess building that up, and we'll be doing some advertising to get that out there, trying to get a few more. But yeah, we get really good feedback from the people who are signed up in terms of the price they pay to get the council collection and the opportunity to recycle.
So they just go into the mainstream red, yellow, blue? Is that what?
They
that-
get-
is that
so
the small
it's-
businesses?
Yeah, so it's any business, they just get a household set of bins. So they just get the standard set of bins that a household would get, and it has to be businesses that are creating a similar amount of waste to what a household would
Needs to
create.
fit in with that cycle.
Yeah. So there'd be some businesses that it's not going to work for because they have a lot more of
Yeah.
one type of waste or the other.
It makes sense if it's a small business.
Yeah, for a small
Just
business.
wonder if our council could look into it.
You don't have small businesses in South Taranaki.
They're all big businesses.
So on your food scraps, are they still going to are they still going to Hampton Downs, or are they going to Reparoa?
They're going to Hampton Downs.
Oh, yeah. Because did I see Auckland's taking theirs to Reparoa for biofuel? Yeah. Which seems a crossover to me, but yeah.
When we did a tour of Bonnyland, and we went down to the council, they said that they could get into a little bit of strife by not having the organic stuff in the rubbish, and they actually needed some organic stuff to be mixed in
to get the methane,
to get the bugs going and everything else going, and it was a bit of unknown territory there. How is it working in Bonnyland? Do they need? Are they still getting enough food scraps in there to keep things going, or?
I haven't heard otherwise.
Okay.
I would assume they.
because they are on a
the amount
methane
of food
recovery, aren't
scraps
they?
and landfill bins is still up there. I don't think they
Okay.
have reached that point at this stage. Yeah, it's an interesting question in the long term of if we get all of our organics out of landfill, which is, it's one of the big drivers of MFE, something they're really trying to work on, how that impacts the landfills.
Like we were unaware until they said we actually need a percentage of food scraps to make the whole thing work.
Yeah. A green material, yeah.
Yeah,
Organic
the organic stuff to get it all starting to break down. So
Are those food scrap bins, they're trending off, aren't they? No, less and less people are using them? Or have they flattened? Have they flatlined
we
now?
had a dip after starting. I'm not sure that
Yeah.
it's sort of continued.
It hasn't continued down? Okay.
I'm not 100% sure either way, I'm afraid. But, yeah, I can find out more about that, and it's definitely, as we said before, an approach of a plan for our education is to look at how we build that up.
Because I think, people don't like storing it for that period of time. They've got to either freeze it or something like that before. Is it on a weekly or a fortnightly?
Weekly.
It's on weekly.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Is that where we? In there, do you want to talk about what Brian was talking about with the whiteware recycling and the mattresses upcycling and things like that?
Yeah.
Did you make any headway on that data? Or?
So what I had a look at primarily there, which was around sort of illegal dumping of those materials, right? We had planned to do some work, and one of the big things we were waiting for is that there is central government work on the Litter Act. So they're looking to combine the Waste Management Act and the Litter Act, which are currently two separate pieces of legislation. They're looking to bring them into one, and also make some changes in terms of what's the word? What litter officers can do about illegal dumping, basically. So there's new compliance things coming into us, and I suppose at the moment it's basically you can sort of do nothing or you can do prosecution, and the new plan is to bring in some interim levels that might, with it, the idea is that they will help us to more effectively deal with illegal dumping. The other thing is that if all the proposals that were suggested come through, looking at extending the powers so that we can use vehicle registration and ownership details to issue fines, I suppose, to people around illegal dumping, which you can't do currently. So at the moment, you can only.
Oh, you've got to actually apprehend the people doing the job.
I think currently you've got to actually got the people, but you'd be able to just, if it comes out of that car, then the owner is accountable for it, I suppose. Right. So there's a few changes in there that are.
Is there any stewardship scheme coming up with whiteware?
I don't believe so.
Bedware? Yeah. Okay.
No, so we did talk about, there is, some countries have mattress recycling, but there's not anything available as far as we're aware in New Zealand currently, because it's about stripping apart the materials, and we probably don't have necessarily the population density to really drive that. Whiteware is, we can take it through transfer stations and all that. I don't think there's any specific stewardship schemes, but there's definitely ways to process and recycle whiteware. Currently, it just a lot of times will come at a cost because there is processing costs to doing it. So it's, and I guess it's that balance of how cheap can we make it that it's encouraged to do it that way as opposed to dumping it on the side of the street.
I just thought if there was a stewardship scheme, just take whiteware, and then so once a year, you just like everyone put their whiteware out on the street, and you just drive a truck around and grab and just throw them on, crush them all up, and you're done, you know, and you get the stewardship scheme to pay for it. You know, that's what I was thinking, was to try and get the average Joe Bloggs to take it somewhere. A washing machine that they probably can't lift, and they haven't got a trailer, and they only got a little car, and a lot of them just sit at the back of rental properties and kind of just stack up in the corner till someone gets a trailer and goes and throws it in the drain.
Yeah, I think there are people already who will come and pick it up, certainly in New Plymouth.
I-
They often come for free, I don't know about other.
I've seen a lot of mattresses go a good
Yeah,
block
maybe
on
not
Hereford
mattresses.
Road, and it's only just out of New Plymouth, and it just seems to be the road where they just hoof them all out. I'm forever ringing the council. Had another 4 today, and they don't do one, they kind of save them up.
What do they do with them in the first place? How do they generate that many?
They just throw them on the side of the road, man, son.
There are scammers running around offering to pick up whiteware and mattresses, and if you respond to them and say, yep, I've got a fridge to get rid of or whatever, they'll come and pick it up, and they'll charge you about $25 for a fridge, so it sounds pretty reasonable.
Yep.
And then they just take it down the road somewhere and tip it off. So they got their money, and away they go. And you can recall a few years ago we had an issue around here with a guy that was picking up tyres and dumping them, and he dumped truckloads of them all over the show.
And hard to recover places, I remember.
Very hard to recover places, but what was disappointing in that whole process, and I did a real follow through because I took an interest in it, and we identified the person. We knew where he was getting the tyres from. He was charging them about $4,000 or $5,000 a collection from garages around, mainly out of New Plymouth, I might add, from big tyre places. And he was charging them plenty, and they were paying it, and he was bringing them down here and dumping them at various country locations around here. And when I tried to pursue that through the police, there was no interest, and basically the response was, what's the crime? And through the TRC as a prosecution possibility, it was, unless it was near a waterway, we weren't particularly interested. And through our council, it was just really, it's a litter complaint. And so we actually pursued it at a local level through our council, and I think we spent about $3,000 or $4,000 on legal advice. Could we prosecute this guy? And if we were successful with a private prosecution, the fine that he was likely to get was about $50. So we weren't going to spend another $3,000 or $4,000 to get $50 back, even if it was to win the argument. So
Yeah, and I think those are some of the.
so it's really it's fly tipping generally.
That should be.
Just a joke.
And I think those sorts of situations are driving some of the suggested
Yes,
changes
yeah.
to the Litter Act. If, you know, having those interim levels where we can have a higher fine or prosecution.
So in that particular instance where they were dumped and they were accessible to the rural community, a lot of them were picked up and used on silage pits, which is okay. But when they were over big banks, they just stayed there. And where the biggest pile was at Tiwera, somebody decided to burn them.
Right.
And there's now just a pile of rusty wire, no rubber on it anymore.
So, just continuing on to that, the $50 fine, was that your fly tipping charge fine?
Pardon?
Was the $50 just a fly tipping, that was the fine?
It's
you
littering.
charged?
Littering.
Littering, yeah.
It's a
So
This
if you
is,
drop some litter in the middle of the Broadway, same
yeah, so
offence.
this is,
It's not-
this is where, I mean, you
my
can,
understanding is the fine is minimal, and if you're lucky, you might get recovery of costs to collect it if you're lucky.
so if we're serious, maybe that's a policy change, I mean, yes,
But
they've got
that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the statutes,
I think it is.
because that's the problem. The statutes aren't there to give us that mandate
But
yet.
just to put in context, you still got a $70 fine for not feeding the meter,
Yeah.
you know? because I was there for a quarter of an hour.
Yeah.
Yet this fly tipping, which could be potentially tonnes, is $50. So the policy needs to change. If you really want to save this,
It's got to be updated.
This fly tipping issue, we really need to update the policy.
Yeah, and it does come through that central government legislation. So when they update it,
So we can't raise the fines within council. We can't debate that and raise the fines for fly tipping. It has to come from central government. Is that right?
Yes.
It wouldn't be
I
right, would
believe
it?
so.
Neil?
Because
I don't know.
yeah.
You can't go by what government says we can charge.
Is that right?
Yeah, because it's legislated, so you can't go above the law of what they dictate. That's the fine for fly tipping. Us as a council, I understand it can't go higher than that, otherwise we're.
Right, but we can charge quite high removal
Up to that
costs.
limit.
Yeah, up to
Probably
that.
$50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what they're looking at changing.
Yeah.
Different levels of those limits for different kinds of things.
Yeah, which it needs to. Yeah. So.
The other question, sorry to drop this on you, is the tyre stewardship scheme working in Taranaki? Are they getting up north, or where they're going to?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I seem to be buying tyres every week, and I seem to be paying this fee that they stick on the side of it all the time. I just bought another ute, and it's got 4 times the fee on there.
I'm actually not sure, I'm afraid, where they go at the moment through
I
Taiwan.
think they
some
go
of them are
to up
shredded.
to Marsden Point.
To the Golden Bay Cement.
Yeah, I think some are shredded to go through there. I'm not sure if that's all of them. But
It depends on how they get there, whether they go there as an entire tyre or they shred them prior to at a centralised point and then take them. So you're not carting a lot of air. Yeah.
It's a centralised point that they get
Shredded.
and then go through, but I'm just not sure if they have holding spaces around the country.
Yeah.
Not 100% sure.
no, so I mean we collect some and hold them here until they're ready to go off, but we don't shred them or anything, and that's all managed through the stewardship scheme.
Just talking to my local garage, he seems to be very happy with it, and I'm not sure whether he sort of just has to register the amount of tyres he's got, and then sort of is it every week or every fortnight somebody comes through and picks them up. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's the thing is you assume by that they're going to a proper disposal point, but we've just talked about sometimes that doesn't always happen. So as long as somebody is following that through to make
It is all managed through contractors accredited with this.
There's a full website of Taiwais, you can go through and read exactly what they do and how they do it.
Right. Yep.
I think just to keep in context, when that tyre thing I referred to here, that was
before. Yep. Yep.
That's only just come in the last
12 months more. Yeah. Exactly. It was only just before. So yeah. Okay. I think we've had enough on the regional operations report. All those in favour of the recommendations on page 17, receive and note, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. I'll
We
move.
need to move.
I'll move. Item 7, the Regional Waste Minimisations Activity Report.
Great. Of course, in the activity report, a few things I wanted to highlight. So the first one we've already talked about a little bit, but you really wanted to highlight the Taranaki Milk Tops Challenge. We had schools all across the region participating and ended up collecting very close to 200,000 plastic milk bottle tops during term 2. So that was a really good result. You can see there different schools. There's a wide range of how many sort of per student people came. But Huiakama School in Stratford District was our winner. 412 tops per student, which is a lot of milk, you have to say. And this was a follow-up to a successful campaign in Stratford, which we've talked about here before. And the Stratford, another note there is just that the Stratford campaign from last year was awarded a highly commended award at Wastemans, which is the National Waste Industry Organisation. At the conference in June, they won that highly commended award, which was a really great result for the team there as well. So What else have we got? The New Plymouth District Council Zero Waste Fund is open 1st to the 30th of September, so that is right now, if you know anyone who has any ideas and wants to apply. So, yeah, we'd love to hear from them if there are people out there with ideas for how we could reduce waste in the district. And the Stratford District Council, their similar one, contestable fund through the waste levy, they ran it in May, so that falls into this report as well. And they got 8 applications and gave out their $25,000 to a range of great organisations around the community. So there's On the House, which has been running in New Plymouth for a few years, received funding to support a move to Stratford. There were also educational programs and some projects looking at supporting rural residents to divert waste from landfill. And then the last one I was wanting to highlight was the South Taranaki District Council quarterly reports on waste diversion scores. So there's a little picture there of the first edition. And that's, you know, talking about some of the things we've been talking about in the meeting so far, looking at what the key contaminants are, which areas are doing really well at their recycling and which areas need to improve a bit, and a chance to sort of reinforce other waste messaging in there as well. So, yeah, really neat initiative to bring together in terms of that community in South Taranaki. Yeah, were there any questions about those or any of the others?
So you can identify waste streams coming from each suburb?
Yeah. Well, so that is that from the bin audit data? Or is specific data?
It's a combination of the audit data and the school audits.
Okay, cool.
But yes, we have means to kind of look at town specifics.
I'm just sort of wondering in a holistic way, can we, when your rates demand comes out, can there not be some identification of which suburbs are doing well in their recycling or their waste disposal, etc.? And can, you know, I was sort of thinking about, do you have a competition to see who can be the best, or how you
We've thought of that as well. I think it would be quite fun.
I'm not sure how you actually get it to work. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there are a few challenges with the data we have, I suppose, especially with the competition. We get data, but it's not always like every district. It is necessarily spread around, so you're sort of getting different streets, different areas at different times. So I suppose you could definitely highlight good things, and there's lots of cool things you can do. But in terms of a competition, it would be quite difficult to make it fair, particularly in the big, in New Plymouth, we've got 30,000 households or something. So trying to make a fair competition for areas across that number of households is probably one of the challenges that we see with delivering something like that. Because we do know...
Because the technology in those trucks is getting a whole lot better now, isn't it?
Yeah. But the technology is really good, and there's lots of information we can gain, but it's about the sort of the people effort required to gain it and make it fair, I suppose, and whether we'd see results that would justify that. We're not sure. So we've had some thoughts about it, and we haven't yet started a competition, but I think it's a really interesting idea and could be quite fun. But I know people would take it seriously, and if we weren't able to do it fairly, then we might get some feedback.
In my sinister mind, thought about sabotage, etc. For some people.
Yeah, and you'd hope that people wouldn't take it that seriously, but honestly, I think yes, we would get people dumping things in other people's bins and all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, Brian.
Just congratulations on the poster. First time I've seen it. Believe it or not, you probably put it in all the newspapers and websites and everything else. And it's just skipped me. Good to see Opanaki at the top. Bins. I've had lots of complaints about the bins. Lids are technically overflowed. I've had complaints where my bin was only open this much, but you left the whole bin behind. And they are rampant on the phone to me. So that's just an education thing. I told them that that it has to be closed and everything else, but their question to me was, well, what do I do with it now? But now I'm going to have double in 2 weeks' time, and how am I going to stick 4 weeks in the one bin type of thing? I didn't have an answer for them. So that education thing, and I presume everyone will get the gist of it. How did that, so obviously the contractor was picking up bins where the lids were slightly open in the past, but then all of a sudden they just stopped doing it?
So with the new trucks, my understanding is that with the new trucks, picking them up, if the lid isn't clipped in and it's overfull, it causes too much issues with overspill
spillage.
and all of those kind of things. So that's why it's mechanically it's just not working. As long as the lid can be clipped with a lid clip, that's fine, because then it only tips once it's upside down. It's just in that process of picking it up and taking it up that if it's overfull, it gets all over the place. So that's where the concern is.
So are you supposed to clip the, yeah, just novice person, are you supposed to clip them every time or only in windy days?
It's best practice to clip it every time,
Okay.
because you never know what could happen. But yeah.
You're guilty.
Yeah.
Not doing that.
But I think if
But you
we
don't
got to-
overfill yours, do you, Brian?
I think it's sort of the combination of if it's very full and not clipped. That's where the
Okay.
real challenge comes
Okay.
in. So it's not.
That's why if it's not clipped, it's not an issue because it's not overfull, it won't fall out.
Yeah.
But if it's overfull, the chances are.
Oh, we just haven't been clipping ours, so it's not windy, I just. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, there's been a lot of communication with the contractor and the operations teams about that, of finding sort of the reasonable middle ground where they can manage the risks of the health and safety and litter risks, and we can also manage providing the service as we want to, and avoiding that problem of people getting 2 weeks worth of rubbish or 4 weeks worth of rubbish all at once and having it. Yeah, there's definitely been that balance and discussion around the table quite significantly.
Okay.
So just looking at the data that you've got there from Pukeariki's audit, how replicable is that to other organisations? And is that a good figure, or you know?
I would say the diversion is pretty good. So,
Yeah.
Yes, I would say diverting 75% of material is a good figure. I think they're doing well. There's been a lot of system changes at that organisation, over time, gradually doing more things to divert waste as much as possible.
Yep.
And yeah, I think really good results there with their recycling and composting. And yeah, a few opportunities there as well, if we could look at soft plastics. And I guess, that is a public-facing organisation, so they have some of those education challenges as well of people using the bins. It's easier for something internal where you might be able to communicate with your staff more easily than everybody.
Yeah,
using
so
the museum and libraries.
It's the public interface as well.
Yeah, so they have that public interface. So yeah, I think it's a really good result for where they are now, and it's great to also identify those opportunities of what they could do to drive it even better.
And so how easy is that to roll out to other organisations, to say this is what this organisation achieved? Can you head towards that direction?
Yeah, I think it does take concerted effort, and that's some of our education programs.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what we're doing with businesses, working with individuals, looking at, because I guess each business will have their own considerations of what comes in, what kind of people they have, what kind of infrastructure they have already. So it's that combination of all the different factors, and that, I suppose, is what makes it can be a little bit tricky for businesses, and that's why our education programs kind of provide that support to businesses to help them to make those changes and to understand what's worked elsewhere and stuff. So a lot of what we do in our education is saying, oh, this business has tried this, you could give that a go. And I suppose with Pukeariki, that's internal, so it's New Plymouth District Council organisation, and that's a big part of what we're really keen to do, is show that we're also walking, you know, when we go around to businesses, it's that we're also walking the talk and making changes within our, and yeah, I think at the other councils, similar stuff happening all around.
Yep. It's just an ongoing challenge, isn't it?
It's an ongoing challenge, and there's always waste.
Yeah.
There's always waste, but you know, we get new infrastructure, we get new challenges, and it's some of those little steps, bit by bit. You know, so a few years ago, Pukeariki probably wouldn't have had such a good result, but after one audit, they might make one change. Then a couple of years later, they look at it again, make another change, and it all kind of compounds into these sorts of results.
And I suppose thinking in the big picture, you know, you highlighted there some of the processes that have changed to get there, you know, using the hand dryer rather than the paper towels, etc. Some of these things we need government intervention to basically eliminate some of the contaminants coming into our stream, you know, packaging material that we don't want that there are packaging materials that we can use, but that one is not one of them.
Yeah.
And this government is probably not one to facilitate that, really, are they?
No, it hasn't probably been, you know, it was a big part of the approach of the previous government, and a lot of them have, you know, plans in the area have dropped off for prioritising other aspects of waste. So yeah, support from central government would be extremely helpful.
But some of those things aren't necessarily costing, are they? They're just basically saying you can't use that, and people will find an alternative packaging form to,
yeah, definitely that's what happens, is people, if it's not available, people will find alternatives.
Yeah.
Often it's not more expensive. Some things, you know, like paper towels is an example, that's a bit of a challenging one because there is that upfront cost. Over time, you probably save, but it takes a while to see that savings.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Pretty much done there. Someone move the item on page 24, receive the memorandum and notes the activities.
I'll move it.
Thank you. Seconder. I'll do that, I suppose. Or Neil. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So this is the last Solid Waste Management Committee for this triennium. Thank you for your participation, and good luck for the next elections. And thank you to the staff for their input into this. And I think it's probably going to be an interesting discussion going forward whether this committee actually carries on. I would like to see it carry on. I still think it has value, but I think there's probably a discussion happening as well that whether it does. So if not, what is going to replace it? That's probably, I suppose, the question. But, yeah. So thank you very much for everyone. With that, Yes?
I'd just like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for chairing the meeting all this time. The last couple of
Triennium.
I've been on. Yeah. And I think there's a valid place for this committee.
Yep.
Just to double check or triple check that stuff's happening behind the scenes, that the tyres are going where they should be, that posters are working, that we're looking after fly tipping, and then we find them $50. That sort of just getting my hair around that, make sure everything's, because it's a changing coalface. It changes all the time with new products coming out, new packaging coming out, new containers coming out. So it is a changing scenery, but whether we're here or not, but I do like that we just keep an eye on things. I do get questions from my other councillors. What are we doing about this? What are we doing about this? So I've got to have all my answers.
Well, from an urban point of view, waste disposal is probably one of your bigger ticket items on your rate bill, between that and water. Yeah. Yeah. So, and like Murray has said, if people put it in the bin, they don't care what happens to it after that, because, yeah, which is unfortunate.
They just want it gone.
Yeah, yeah. It's not my problem anymore. Okay, declare the meeting closed, and with a carrot here.
Kia goes. Kia uru mai, hau ora, hau kaha, hau maia, ki runga, ki raro, ki roto, ki rahu, iruri hau, hau maia. And we'll go and see if Kai's here, and then I'll karakia Kai.
Do it.
We'll do it in there.
Right. So you're at the top end, Neil. Do you